The world feels like it's constantly on fire and the oceans are rising more and more every year. The air and environment is being polluted with no signs of stopping in sight. We're all aware that these things are happening and generally agree that they are bad, but no one is actually doing anything about it. Sometimes it feels like the destruction of our planet is a question of when and not if. If the option to just abandon the planet and join an advanced, accepting, and space-bound civilization appeared, would you take it? The more complex and interesting question is whether or not humanity as a whole could come to any kind of consensus about leaving Earth behind. A Half-Built Garden by Ruthanna Emrys opens with a symbiotic alien collective or civilization making first contact with Earth in the year 2083. After the initial shock of meeting an alien life subsides, the representative from the ship explains that they are a vast collective of two species that have merged to live permanently in space on massive ring-shaped colonies. They inform us that their main purpose is to seek out and preserve life throughout the universe. They have noticed that humanity has reached the point of technological advancement in which we have outgrown the planet. They have observed that all advanced species eventually reach a point in their technology in which it outpaces the ability of their host planet to sustain life, and they must extend upwards into space or ultimately go extinct from their own doing. Society of Earth in the year 2083 is much different and in many ways more idealized than it is now. The government has lost some of its power and control in certain areas, corporations have grown in power and influence, enough that they were able to essentially secede and form their own localities on artificial islands where the climate is still livable. And there is a third new network of people known as watersheds who, through the previous generation's efforts and rebellions, form collectives that monitor and manage the impact of humanity on the planet. They've been able to establish laws and agreements limiting what the government and corporations can do in order to slowly reverse the damage done to the planet. The watersheds essentially function through highly moderated Discord or Reddit threads, where people all have areas of expertise which give their input more weight depending on the subject being discussed. The main drive and drama of this story is the discovery and reconciliation of all the different cultures trying to come together and explore what life would look like if humanity merged with these two new alien species. I think this is really where the book shines. The cultures of not only the alien species are interesting, but the layout of humanity's future culture is heavily focused on as well. The alien collective is extremely matriarchal, believing that having children is one of the highest forms of authority because you have a greater stake in the future. Where there is a small clash of culture is where they also don't typically allow males to interact with children as much as humanity has a strong culture of co-parenting. Human society has also advanced to a point in which gender, pronouns, and sexuality are all fluid and expressed in many different ways. Family structure is also laid out much differently into more of a it takes a village mentality. Families can opt to co-parent so they can pool together and share resources, making the impact and carbon footprint of individuals as a whole much smaller. Because of the historic struggles between the government, corporations, and the newly formed watershed networks, there is a good amount of distrust and competing interests. In general, the watershed networks feel more ownership and connection with Earth because they have dedicated their existence to understanding and living in a more symbiotic relationship with the planet. The government and corporations have much greater interest in not only leaving the planet, but also trying to get their hands on advanced alien technology for profit. From the alien perspective, they are on a morally charged mission to rescue humanity from themselves. At times, it even feels like they are parents who are hell-bent on saving us regardless of what we want because they just know better. They've seen worlds and species die out completely several times because they weren't able to get to them in time, and they don't want to have another failure like that happen again. Ultimately, I really enjoyed A Half-Built Garden. It's an environmental, political, and cultural drama. The book is kind of a slow burn with bursts of action and stress. The human characters did feel a little two-dimensional when it came to their beliefs and motivations, but they were very representative of the societies from which they came. The alien characters and cultures are what I feel shine the brightest. The world building, history, and culture they brought to the table was extremely interesting, and every scene in which they tried to come together and learn from humanity was great. This book depicts an optimistic view of the future, which is a nice change of pace for me. Usually the future is shown as being dystopian and hopeless, which is understandable because the current state of the world doesn't exactly show a positive direction for us. In a funny way, my suspension of disbelief belief was able to handle a massive alien collective wanting to rescue humanity from a dying planet, but I did have trouble believing that just 1 or 2 generations from now, we were able to get things together enough to start reverse the effects of climate change. But if you're looking for a hopeful sci-fi story about what the future of humanity could look like, then I would check out A Half-Built Garden by Ruthanna Emrys.